Hi all, welcome to the Marquee Matchups for the 12th of December. Plenty of routes as usual to cover, and hopefully this week we get 4 routes that constitute the Marquee Matchups, because this week it was 2 random routes. The Real Madrid game I could understand, the Ajax game luckily we got right, but confusing nonetheless. But smash likes as always, sub to the channel if you're new, follow me on Twitter @GTheLegend, all links are down below for posts on the channel and social media links as always, and remember to catch out everyone in the predictions league as well. So we've got the Dutch options of Feyenoord versus Sparta Rotterdam, Roda versus VVV Venlo, and Ajax versus AZ Alkmaar, which is a cup game. So we've got 3 derbies in Holland this week. Personally, obviously now that we've had Ajax versus PSV, this option I don't really see happening. All routes I would say are about a 3-4 out of 10. It would have been fun to see what would have happened, but obviously they went with like a Dutch emphasis, so you could have 6 Dutch players, but in reality you didn't even have to rely heavily on the Dutch league. But obviously we're still, the way we've built the squad was covering all 6 teams, but Feyenoord, and you'd have like one, you've got a mix of nations, mix of rares. But would this happen? In reality I can't see it now. It's not going to happen, despite Feyenoord versus Sparta Rotterdam being a big-ish Rotterdam based derby. It's not the most important out of the lot, but it's still very important for the people of Feyenoord, Feyenoord and Rotterdam respectively. So just at least be aware of it though. Then over to France, you have so many options here. There is 4 games in France as well, 4 derbies, all in the league, and this is kind of crazy. They all constitute derbies according to French football, which is Lyon versus Marseille is the big one, guys. That for me is going to happen. If it doesn't, something's far wrong. It's like one of the biggest games in France. It's iconic in French football, so it's like last week where we had the Manchester and Liverpool derbies. They didn't happen. Lyon versus Marseille should be happening. You've got Strasbourg versus Toulouse, Saint Etienne versus Monaco, and Nantes versus Angers. Nantes versus Angers is the least likely. Same for Strasbourg versus Toulouse. Saint Etienne versus Monaco does have a bit of history about it, but Saint Etienne aren't producing the goods this season. I would at least prepare a 78, 79 rated squad though, for Lyon versus Marseille. I feel that it wouldn't surprise me that them to put it quite high, and as long as you've got, I've went with Raphael and Mitroglou. To be honest, they're pretty sound shouts. The 81s are seeming to be a little bit expensive. 80 81s for the French league are a little bit expensive, so be aware of who you're kind of going for. But I feel as long as you've got a 78 squad, you're fine. Then over to the EPL, we've only got 1 route this week, which is Manchester City versus Spurs. I haven't seen anything else that can be referenced at all, so it wouldn't surprise me if they just say, oh, we'll just pick this game. If they did, I would be kind of annoyed. For me, it's got a good strong shout, because obviously we had 4 games last week. This week we've only got the 1 that stands out. But if Spurs were further up the table, then this would have been I would say the surefire shout. I've still gave it a strong 7. It's probably the lowest of the 7s, I will admit though. So, but an EPL option, they like to do it, and as long as you've got a 79 rated squad and kind of covered your rares, your nations, and the clubs, you're going to be covered. Over at Switzerland, we only have 1 option, which is Grasshoppers versus Basel. Big game this. This is whenever Basel and a Zurich team play, they're deemed big derbies, and this should be no different. I really do fancy this, because with the nature of the games that I've found, I would say this has a strong shout. I'm giving it a 7. In all honesty, there could easily find another 7 out of somewhere, but for this, as long as I've got a mix of bronzes and a mix of silvers, and then I've got only a handful of golds. I've only got like 5 or 6, like 1, 2, 3, 6 golds. I tell I thought a little bit less, but even still, it's fairly straightforward. Anderson and Huru you can easily put in. Then from here we go over to a very strong and interesting shout, which is in Belgium. We've got Club Brugge versus Anderlecht, which is probably the game I really fancy. This is one of the biggest games in Belgian football. Like, it is heavily regarded. And then another derby, a lower less derby, is Lokeren versus Beveren. Lokeren versus Beveren is probably a 4 or a 5, but Bruges Anderlecht is a 7. I really do quite fancy this. For me personally, as long as you've got a balance of gold and silvers, and as long as you're at highest, I would say 75 rated. I'm saying anywhere between 70 and 73, you should be covered. I can't see them going too high, but this would be the kind of route where you'd maybe get a 10, 15k pack for your troubles, but it could easily be one of these mixed packs. I know I'm saying jumbo, a 15k pack, jumbo premium gold pack, but they seem to just give you random. There's so many pack types now in FIFA that they could easily just throw in whatever they like and just alter the requirements accordingly. Then for Spain, there's several routes here. We've got Leganes versus Real Madrid and Real Sociedad versus Bilbao. Part of me was thinking they would leave it to this week, that they would give us a Spanish route. Leganes versus Real Madrid it's like when Barcelona play not Espanyol but like Levante. It's like the lesser of the Barcelona derbies. Leganes versus Real Madrid is kind of like that as well, when it's not Real Madrid versus Atletico. Leganes is based in Madrid and it's kind of a lesser of the derbies, but Real Sociedad versus Bilbao is the bigger of the two games, and that would be almost your 6 out of 10 game that they could just throw in if they decide, let's just go 2 weeks in a row with a Spanish option and go Real Sociedad versus Bilbao. But I did kind of fancy a Spanish route for this week, not last week, so they've now kind of made it very interesting and difficult to kind of say, well, what's the score here. But as long as you've got a 78, 79 rated squad, you're going to be sorted. Now Germany, same applied this week. I expected a German route this week. Now they've thrown all the plans out the window. You've got Bayern versus Stuttgart in the league, but you also have Bayern versus Dortmund in the Pokal. So be fully aware that Bayern could feature next week in either of the two games. Now, Bayern versus Stuttgart has a long history. Bayern versus Dortmund is their Klassiker, so very big, important games. And personally, I would say as long as you're prepared a Bayern route, then they could easily just go 2 weeks in a row with a German route. Wouldn't surprise me with the options of the two, and they seem to be doing random midweek cup games as well. 79 rated squad, I would say personally you want to cover the high end of, and you'll find it fairly straightforward. For me personally, I would say from here you're not going to find it too difficult to, in all honesty, prepare for, as long as you've got Bayern, a Stuttgart and a Dortmund player in your team. I've got Toljan, Gentner, and then would go Bernat for my Bayern player. What I would say is as well, guys, Monterrey versus Tigres second leg cup final is on Sunday, I believe, and EFL League Cup is the other options. That's a midweek options as well. But hopefully find this useful. As always, Club Brugge, Basel, Lyon and Manchester City are the 4 games I fancy. Smash likes as always, sub to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you all later.